On November 1st, 1890, the state of Mississippi adopted a new state constitution with a poll tax and arbitrary literacy test for voting and a section designed to disenfranchise African American men who received the right to vote from the 15th Amendment of 1870. And to a lesser extent, some poor white people would be excluded if the literacy test was applied to them as well. Now, this became known as the Mississippi Plan, and it was adopted by other southern states, especially former Confederate states, after Reconstruction ended in 1877, and it was designed for these white supremacists to take back control of the state legislature and local politics. So on a hot day in August 1890, the delegates gathered at Mississippi's state capital in Jackson, Mississippi, to begin work on a new state constitution. The overriding topic was the quote unquote suffrage question, the suffrage question that meant voting rights. The convention's president was named Saladin Calhoun, and he was a white county judge. He put the voting issue bluntly. He said, quote, "Let's tell the truth if it bursts the bottom of the universe. We came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer," end quote. So this was the expressed purpose of rewriting the state constitution. Now, the picture that you see here is of Senator Hiram Rhodes Revels of the state of Mississippi. And he was the first African American to serve in either the House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate. And he was elected as a U.S. Senator from the state of Mississippi in 1870. So in 1890, at this Mississippi State Convention, delegates eventually adopted a literacy test and a poll tax geared to suppress the African American vote in a state that had a majority population of African Americans. And this is as a result of slavery. And when you study prior to the Great Migration of 1915, 90% of African Americans lived in the southern states. So what Mississippi did became known as the Mississippi Plan and became the model throughout the South. And it was part of a raft of racially oppressive Jim Crow laws that ended Reconstruction. So we see this continuation taking place after Reconstruction ends in 1877. Now, if you read this article from the Washington Post from 2021, it goes on to say that President Joe Biden said that attacks from Georgia, from the new Georgia voting law, Senate Bill 2021, he called those attacks Jim Crow. President Joe Biden and others warned that Jim Crow style disenfranchisement is resurfacing in efforts by Republican state legislatures in Georgia, Texas, and other states to restrict voting. Now, this is in 2021, after Joe Biden becomes president, that he says this. Now, the moves are in response to the moves at the time in 2021, rewriting the voting rights laws in these various southern states. The moves are in response to former President Donald Trump's false claims of widespread voter fraud in the November 2020 presidential election. Republican Governor Brian Kemp denies Georgia's new law is discriminatory, but many will disproportionately be affected across areas where large turnouts of African American voters in 2020 helped Joe Biden and Kamala Harris become vice president and Joe Biden become president, as well as two Democratic senators win from the state of Georgia as well, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator John Ossoff. Now, the new state constitution of 1890 that was adopted November 1st, 1890, this day in history, November 1st, 1890, the new constitution was a nail in the coffin for Mississippi Reconstruction and a win for voter suppression. It brought an end to the period of democratic, with a small d, democratic progress that followed the U.S. Civil War, when African Americans were the majority of eligible voters in the state of Mississippi. Now, the Civil War is 1861 to 1865. The Zen Education Project has a good article dealing with this. November 1st, 1890, Mississippi adopts a new constitution. And they cite historian James Lowen, who wrote the book Lies My Teacher First, 1890, Mississippi adopts a new constitution. And they cite historian James Lowen, who wrote the book Lies My Teacher Told Me. And in a piece entitled 5 Myths About Reconstruction, historian James Lowen explains that Mississippi set a precedent for the rest of the South. This was particularly true after the unanimous Supreme Court vote on April 25th, 1898, upholding Mississippi's claim that their state constitution was not discriminatory in the U.S. Supreme Court case of Williams versus Mississippi. Quote, every Southern state instituted literacy tests and poll taxes to effectively remove African Americans from the citizenship they were supposed to have been guaranteed by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, historian James Lowen said. Now, this can be seen in the state constitutions with similar voter suppression statutes adopted by South Carolina in 1895, Louisiana in 1898, North Carolina in the year 1900, Alabama in 1901, Virginia in 1901, Georgia in 1908, and the state of Oklahoma in 1910, where the Black Wall Street was and the Tulsa Race Massacre took place in 1921. So felony disenfranchisement has a long and often racist history. And this means that if you are convicted of a felony, you lose your right to vote, in some cases for life. In the case of Mississippi, Section 241 of Mississippi's new state constitution, you lost your right to vote for life if you were convicted of a felony. And they expanded the number of crimes that were classified as a felony, and they chose crimes that they felt African American men were more predisposed to commit. So this permanently barred you from being able to vote for life when this was amended in 1890. Now, supporters of the amendment stated openly that their goal was to keep black men away from the ballot box. Now, in 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected an earlier challenge to this provision in the Mississippi State Constitution. A group of African American state residents who have permanently lost their right to vote after being convicted of felonies listed in the provision argued that the 1890 amendment's intent to discriminate against black people, coupled with the provision's continued emphasis today on crimes that disproportionately disenfranchise African Americans in Mississippi, violated the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection. That's Section 1 of the 14th Amendment of 1868, which was largely passed for African Americans and to give citizenship to African Americans. These plaintiffs argued that this statute prohibits the government from treating people differently without a good reason. Now, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first African American female on the U.S. Supreme Court, in an opinion joined by Justice Sonia Sotomayor, criticized the U.S. Supreme Court for refusing to take up the case the day after it struck down affirmative action in higher education in 2023. So you can read more about this at the Washington Post, Zen Education Project, and SCOTUS blog. I'm historian and national political commentator Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Follow me on Facebook and fan base at the African History Network, and also my personal Facebook page, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, as well as on YouTube and on Instagram at Michael Imhotep. Visit my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for my new online history class, my 10-week online history class, Ancient African Empires, the Moors, and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, 5000 BC to 1800 AD. Class number 1 starts Sunday, November 9th, 2025, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. And watch me Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And watch on Roland Martin's YouTube channel. And be sure to listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch me on my social media platforms. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And this is an example of how elections have consequences. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. Also, you can support the African History Network through PayPal and Cash App. We have the information. And this is an example of how elections have consequences. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. Also, you can support the African History Network through PayPal and Cash App. We have the information right on the homepage of my website. If you scroll down, $ the AHN show through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This is our Cash App. Tag $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. Okay, these are some fake African History Network Cash App accounts that have been stealing money from us. And I put our tag right here. Here's our link to our Cash App, QR code. Okay, so you can support us there if you want to donate support us $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, whatever it is. It definitely helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay some of the bills, and broadcast the Sunday night show also. And here's our link for PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay. All right. So look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time.